How do you think AMP2 is compared to AMP1? More difficult, harder. Give me more words, more adjectives.
Faster.
Tougher, difficult, faster. Challenging. Ooh. Complicated. More complicated. Mind-boggling. Ooh, look at us. How about fun? Learning can be fun. See, here's the deal. AMP1 versus AMP2. Much of the stuff, especially at the beginning of AMP1, wasn't stuff you're really going to use in healthcare. It's background to understand healthcare. From early on here, if you're working in healthcare, the topics that we talk about in AMP2 are going to be more relevant. We're doing hormones and the blood, the first module. Everybody knows hormones are important. Everybody knows blood's important. If you're working in a clinical setting, you're going to be dealing with people that have hormones raging and they might be bleeding. So right off the bat, AMP2 is relevant, okay? We're going to do heart, cardio. You need this even if you decide never to go into healthcare and you change your path. You're going to have people in your family with heart issues. And just from what you learn in AMP2, you're going to know more than the average person out there. So you're going to be in a better position to tell them, hey, maybe you need to go to the doctor right now instead of sitting home and letting something bad happen. So realistically, I can tell you, at the end of AMP1, it did become more relevant. Skeletal, muscles, and nervous system, very relevant to healthcare, okay? Especially anybody going into PTA? Very relevant to you. Sorry it was taught so fast. You got a lot of learning to do once you get in the program, okay? So there's that. Next, in AMP2, the labs always connect to the lecture. You're not going to have these labs where you learn it in lab and never use it. It just doesn't happen, okay? The next thing is, because it's hard, because it's complicated, maybe you want to be in the content a little more outside of the class, and we're lucky to have Judith. She's our supplemental instructor, tutor, TA. She goes by many names. But her sessions for our class are this 8 weeks. They're actually going to be virtual. So she's going to be on her computer. So bring your laptops. You'll probably have to do it from here if you want to do it. Here's why. She's going to go from 5 to 6. When does our class start? At 6. So you can't really be sitting at home unless you live right behind the globe there and make it to class by 6. All right. So when you want to do those sessions, just come up here. I'll let you in the room, or you can do it in the hall, wherever you're comfortable. Okay. Highly, highly recommend her and what she does. Did you want to say anything, or do you need to?
I can tell them a little bit about what I do. So I know I see some familiar faces here, like Michelle, Teresa, and Monica. They came to my sessions for AP1, and like they can tell you what I do is I give out these review sheets where it basically has key terms on there from the lecture stuff. I can also go over lab, like she was saying. Lab is like a lot more relevant to the lecture stuff, so I can definitely go over those with y'all. I really enjoy talking about AMP, so I really don't mind y'all emailing me at any time to tell me, hey, I had a question about this real quick. I can write down my email there, or do you have it posted on Blackboard?
I have it.
Anyways, so I don't mind y'all emailing me, telling me, hey, I have some questions about AMP. Just email me at any time, because I really do love talking about this stuff. I do love teaching it, so just whenever you need help, I'm there for you.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. And see, here's the other cool thing. Not only does she love AMP, and she's on her healthcare path too, but she took AMP here. So she knows how we teach AMP, how we test over AMP. So you don't just get this boring person that knows the content. You get somebody that understands what you're going through, because she took it here in these 3-hour blocks, just like you guys are taking it. Okay? So thank you very much. She's going to be leaving us soon, so she'll probably sneak out, and we won't make a big deal out of it, except it's on a recording. So, yeah. All right. Other thing about this, let me go back to that. lab and lecture thing because I wanted to give her some time. The labs here in AMP2, lab is your foundation. Okay, let me open. I'm going to open our syllabus to use this as a guide to say something. So lab is the foundation. What does that mean? Well, what it means is when we're learning the hormones, we're first learning them in lab. And what I do with you, the way I do class is completely different than the way the other teachers do class. We all have our own way. See, we all had to figure out, how are you going to do AMP in 8 weeks? I know to you it's normal, because honestly, we've been doing it for 8 years in 8 weeks. But most schools, they don't have AMP in 8 weeks. They have it in 16 weeks. And so you're getting, I want you to know why it's hard. You're getting 16 weeks of material in 8 weeks. And they didn't double our class time. They left it 3 hours and 3 hours. So that means you have 1/2 of the class time. You have half the class time to learn it 8 weeks faster. So it's hard right from the start. The only way we could legitimately figure out how are we going to do this is we had to make it a hybrid class. And so what that means, and it depends who you had for AMP1 and how they do it, everybody does it different, but legitimately in AMP2, half the class is outside of class time. I have lecture videos that you will do on your own to teach you the lecture. But I want to not terrify you by this, and I want you to understand why I did it like that and how it works. Since lab is your foundation, let me get to this relevant part of the syllabus. We're going to do the lab content together, okay? Anyway, I won't say not. We're going to learn the labs together. We're going to learn the lab material together, and you're going to be tested over what you learn. All of our tests are now online because that buys us time for class. That buys us more class time. The other thing, by squeezing it down, making it hybrid, losing class time, we really don't have the time to take all of our tests in here. That would be an hour and a half and an hour and a half every other week. That would be 3 hours every other week. What that would mean is every module we'd lose a whole class period. We can't do that. So you test online. What that does is it gives me flexibility that I can pass on to you about when you take the tests. No longer do you have to come to class on Thursday night and absolutely at that minute know at 6 p.m. on Thursday when we start class you're going to have a lab test. Because back in the old days, that's how it was. And if you weren't ready at 6 p.m. right then, you were wiped out because that's when the test was and we all tested together. Thursday night, I open up your tests and the lab test is available Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And you can take it. And then your lecture test is open. Actually, it's open in the same window, but I recommend you take the lecture test either Monday or Tuesday, not on the same night. And here's why. We're going to be learning the labs. We're going to do all the labs together, learn it together. And at a certain point, when we're learned enough about hormones, then you'll be ready to start watching some of the lectures on your own and working with the practice quizzes that are based on the lecture to learn that material. And by doing some of the labs before you start that, you're going to create some knowledge in your mind that acts like mental Velcro. What that means is because you already understand where the pituitary is at and where the thyroid is and basically what they do, when you hear it again in lecture, it's going to stick, and it's going to stick better. And then you take your practice quizzes and it reinforces it. So honestly, what I've found, if you get engaged in this class and you learn this class, you're going to learn a lot of AMP because AMP2 is set up in a way that it blends your learning better than AMP1. And it's not because of me, it's just how the content rolls, and I've learned to do it that way. Okay, so, but what does that mean? It means every week you always have lectures to do on your own. It's a lot, okay? You want to keep up with it, but I will remind you. The other thing is, I want to reward you. I want to help to push you, however we want to think about that. Labs count 20%. Lab's the foundation, and lab's only 20%. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? All this time we come and it's only 20%. Well, give me a minute. Look at lectures, 30%. Let me talk about lecture tests for a minute. So you have your videos, and you have your lab content base, and you have your practice quizzes. The practice quizzes are there to reinforce what you learn in the lectures, all right? And many of them will appear on the test just like you saw them in the practice quiz. I don't mind telling you how many. About 50% of your lecture test will come straight from those, okay? That's about half, about half. So here's a secret. If all you do is study practice quizzes, you're not going to do good in AP2, right? We all have a different AP1 experience. Some teachers use more lecture, weight it higher. Some classes I've heard in AP1 can just do the lecture practice quizzes and they can pass AP1. I'm betting most of you did not have that experience, but I'm just saying I get that from time to time. You can't do it in AP2. Practice quizzes are great. They help you learn, they reinforce the learning, but they're not the whole class, okay? So let me back up a bit. What do I call lab? Lab is the foundation. Lab is the foundation. So you're going to learn lab, and mostly, I think you probably have this idea, you're going to get pictures on your lab test. And when you take a lab test, you're going to have to type the answers. They're all fill in the blank. But we're going to work with this content so much, you're going to have a good feel for it, okay? I have a feeling that most of you in the night class are going to do pretty good on the lab portion. If you attend class and are here and are engaged, and even if you have to be at home, if you're engaged, if you turn it on and you're not paying attention to it and you're doing something else, sorry. Because here's why. AP2 labs, they're not like the bones. It's not a picture where you just memorize a couple things and it makes sense. AP2 labs, I can show you one picture and point to the same thing and have 5 answers based on the question I ask, because there's more to the content. But I teach it for you to understand it that way, okay? I'm explaining everything because I want it to be honest and open and clear, and I want you from day one to know what it takes for you to do your best, okay? Because you can do really great in this class. But it definitely takes work, and I don't want anybody to get behind on day one. If you get behind, the further you get behind, you know how it is. It's hard to catch up. The best path is just to get into it and stick with it. Here's the other good news. We have AP2 lined up so perfect that we're going to finish all our content in week 7. Week 8, you're going to have tests and the final. Your last tests and the final. And week 8 on Tuesday, we'll come to class, but I won't have any new content to give you. It will be a chance for you to ask me questions, okay? So at the end, we do not get jammed up. You won't get jammed up with materials. So it's spaced pretty well, all right? So back to your grade, because I don't do this for the grade that you're going to get. The grade just helps you to get in a program. And let's face it, that's why you're all here. Anybody here for fun? Because you just wanted to come up here 2 nights a week and just sit in the class? All right, raise your hand if you're not going to do healthcare. Wait, look around. I didn't see any hands. Why is that? We're all going to do healthcare. So number 1, we care about people in some way, you weirdos. You care about people you haven't even met yet. You're in the business of taking care of people, whether you're going to take care of their physical body or their mental body, or you're going to work with hospice and help them transition, or whatever. You're here to help people. And so I want you to know, I used to be in healthcare, and now I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you get out there and help those people. I'm not here to be a barrier. I'm here to help you. This is the difference with AMP2. The job of AMP1 is to get you into AMP2. That's what it is. It's really just to send you to me or Dr. Morris, okay, or some other school that's doing AMP2. Here's the job of AMP2, and this is a little tougher. Once you finish this class, when you pass this class, you're qualified to apply to healthcare programs, not just at OC, not just our nursing program and our PTA and our rad tech and our fire EMT paramedic stuff, but anywhere in Texas, that includes Midland, that includes UTPB and Texas Tech, and anywhere in Oklahoma and New York and Florida and anywhere in the US. Did you know that? You take AP2 and you're done with the AMPs, and for most of the basic healthcare programs, you've got most of your prereqs to go in to a program. So there's some weight to that. When you pass this and you're done with this with your B or A, you're ready to get into a program and you have what it takes to succeed. So I have to push you harder to help you develop the skills and the habits so that when you get through this, you're in a position to pass. The last thing I want to do is waste your time. Push you through here, you have an A, you go to a program, you're like, I got this, I made an A in A&P, and you get in the program and you flunk out because you don't know what you need. You're going to earn your grade in here, okay? But you're going to learn a lot. The other thing, let me just throw this out there. The last year or so, the only people that don't pass my class are people that quit and give up. Just don't take the tests. If you don't take the tests, there's no way you can pass. It's impossible. Lab tests and lecture, all tests. If you don't take the tests, if you miss a few tests here or there and don't make them up, I give you opportunities to make them up. You have to take them to pass. So I know with the pandemic, and I know mental health has come up more, and a lot of people have anxiety, and testing at home is anxious for some people, sometimes even more than the classroom, because you get to choose when to test, and that causes some people stress and stuff. Let me tell you what's more stressful. Getting all the way through the 8 weeks and having to do it again, and then having to do it again, and having to do it again. That's stressful. Having people rely on you and you're not ready to get into your program yet, or you have to take a whole next year. And I know for some of us, hey, I took off a year in college and had to come work at a trucking company and get my mind right before I went back. It happens. That's life. But I want you to know in here right now, life might happen to some of us, but the goal is if something's not going on, communicate with me. I can help you. Okay? If you're afraid of a test, I can talk to you and just get you to click on it and open it up and take it and realize it just ain't so bad, to be honest. You can get through this class by not doing great on every test. You know why? That's homework right there. I know you guys at home can't see me because I'm pointing with my fingers. There they are. 30% of your grade comes from homework. Practice quizzes. Practice quizzes are 20% of your grade. So not only are they half of your lecture exam, they're 20% of your course grade. You won't believe it. I have people go through my whole class and never take a practice quiz. If you did perfect on everything, you could only make an 80. And then you haven't seen those questions. You really think you're going to do perfect on that? So what do you think the test grades are like? Practice quizzes are your friends. They don't need respondents. You know, you had class already. You click on them, you take them. You can take them as many times as you need to learn that question. Okay? And also, I leave them open the whole semester so you can review them whenever you want at any time. I do have, though, a schedule that kind of tells you about when they need to be done to keep you on track. Okay? All right. Next thing, discussions. I haven't looked at Dr. Day's discussions lately. Remind me, how many people did not have Dr. Day? Oh, wow. It's everybody that's here? You didn't? Okay, 2 of y'all. 2 of y'all. So y'all didn't have the night class last time, right? You had another class. Okay. I'll talk about Dr. Day a lot because almost everybody in here just had his night class and now has me. So I'll talk about him. I know that he probably has some of his discussions might be very much like ours, and some of them might be different because we work together and talk about those things. But in AP2, with one exception, every other discussion board is basically your opinion. You can't get your opinion wrong. You understand that? I'm not grading you on your opinion. I'm just looking to see if you did it. And here's why. I know if you do the discussions that I've written for you, you're going to learn about yourself. And you're going to learn about how you learn and how you could do better on the next one, and it's going to benefit you. There's no struggle about, oh my goodness, do I know this? Because it's not do I know this, it's that I'm willing to think about how I did stuff and put it down on paper. Okay? With the discussions, I will mention this. Let me just open one. Your replies to your classmates are to create connections. I don't think that's going to be a big deal in this class because you already know each other, most of you. Some of you guys, we're going to want to get you connected, okay? On each of my discussions, hey, and don't, by the way, don't worry. You don't have to memorize every word I'm saying because as we move through the class, I remind you how to prepare for lecture tests. I remind you about the quizzes. I remind you when your discussions are because I do know that even though half the class is online, you come to class for a reason. And I'm going to remind you when you have things to do online outside of class. Okay? Check this out. Your discussion boards have 2 due dates. So I remember when we first started doing discussions, and you've probably been in a class like this, it's time to do your discussion. You type your discussion, and there's nobody to reply to. Raise your hand if you've ever done that. Oh, almost half the class, right? You other people, you're the procrastinators like me, so it's cool, all right? So there's nobody to reply to. And you're like, oh my goodness. And then it takes so long for other people to post that you forget and you don't go back and post. So you don't have to worry about that in here. We have an initial due date. Everybody does their posts by that date. We don't even think about it doing our replies until later. And then we got a whole bunch of people to pick from. And we read some of them and we choose who we reply to. Okay? Your replies, each discussion is worth 10. Your initial post is 6, and your replies are 2 each, so that's 4. What that means, if you only do your initial post and you never post your replies, you just made a 60 on that free discussion that you could have made 100. So do your replies. Make sure you do your replies. Believe it or not, those points add up. Your 20% homework and your 10% discussions, I hate to tell you this, but I already bonded with you and I'm going to tell you. No, I'm not. I want to make it a secret. What should I do? Should I tell you or not?
Tell us.
Do you know what average you have to get to make a 70 in the class if homework is 30% and you do all the homework? Well, it's sure not a 70. You don't even have to pass a single test to pass the class. Now remind me, how much of your grade on a lecture exam comes from practice quizzes? Let me say it again. Let me say it again so everybody gets it. Some people got it, some didn't. Your lecture test is about how much practice quizzes? About half. Okay? So listen to me here. You do your homework, you got 30% of your grade. You do your homework and you really focus on those quizzes and you at least got a 50 on a lecture test. You come to lab and you learn lab. Here's what I didn't tell you yet that I'm ready to tell you now. Every lecture test is about 25% lab material because I want to reward you for learning the foundation. So I'm going to ask some lab questions on your lecture test. Why? Because it's what you're going to know best because it's what we do together. So realistically, if you're engaged in lab and learning lab and you're doing your practice quizzes, now your grade's probably going to be a C, even if you really aren't current with your videos. But you don't want a C because you want to get into a program. And programs need a B or an A, and that's where the lecture videos come in. The lecture videos build upon what we did in lab. They talk about the content in a different way and add a whole lot more because, frankly, it's technical stuff. And that's what gets you to the level of a B or an A. Doing those lectures, taking your notes, and studying and working with that material. Because when you do that, Then when a question's not a practice quiz question, but it's over the same topic or a similar topic or just said another way, you're not really confused by it. You understand because you've worked with that material and you didn't just memorize questions. Okay? All right. Let's see. Is there any, I'm just going to start at the top. Anybody curious about something and start here that you don't know what's in there? Did you ever go in there after day 1 or 2 of class? And why would you go back in there? To look at the syllabus, right? That's the number one reason. If we had a thought, oh man, I don't know something, it might be in there. But watch this. So in our class, the syllabus has a schedule, but I know you might want to access it more regularly, just the schedule part, so I put it here. So you don't have to go and upload, do the whole simple syllabus thing. The other thing is, I made the big fancy schedule that has all the SLOs and all the stuff, and it's laid out with every assignment. But I also know when you come to class, you really want to know what we're doing tonight. Kind of what's the topic for tonight. So here is the schedule that I'm about to give you that is bare bones. It's really just an outline, but it gives us an idea about what we're going to be doing every time we come to class. Okay. So, yeah, just don't get packed up with the red lights. Okay. So, it's like 2 doors down. Hey, you know what else I learned in the pandemic? Never lick your fingers before you grab and hand a student a paper. No. COVID. Can't do that. Yeah, but not just germs anymore. Now it's COVID. Back in the day, it was germs. Ooh, that's gross. Now it's like, ooh, I could die. Wow. That's awful. So awful. Seriously awful. And I'm sure, like me, many of you know somebody that passed away from COVID, right? I mean, and if you're already working in healthcare, maybe you know a lot of people. So today, orientation. We're almost done with this part. And then we're going to move into endocrine. Next time endocrine, and the next time, are you kidding me? It's that much stuff. And that's just the lab. Remember, the lecture's beyond this. There is a lot to endocrine. And then look, little old blood gets 1 night. And that is enough for blood for our lab. So as you're thinking about your first lab test, don't you imagine there would be more questions from endocrine than there would be from blood? And you would be correct, okay? It's about probably 2/3 endocrine and about 1/3 blood, because that's how much content is there, okay? So let's look again at this. Tuesday night, this, Thursday night, next week. See, next week, this week we're not worried about tests. It's kind of chill. Next week, the first night of the week, we're not worried about tests. It's real chill. And then you look at your schedule and you see that, and you're like, already? Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm not kidding. But remember what I said. So what this means, that's the date your test becomes available. And the next week over here, that's the date the tests close. So honestly, I leave them both open for that whole window. I highly recommend Take the lab test first. It's what we do together. It's what you're going to know the best. And try to take it at least a day or two before you take the lecture to give your brain a chance to do that. I know it doesn't always work like that. I know some of you are going to be there on Tuesday night taking both tests. Well, you know, I can't change you and you can't change me, and that's okay. But I will try to prompt you and remind you that the better you can train your habits now, the easier a program's going to be. It really is. It's really, the more you can work ahead on a regular basis in this class, the more it's going to set you up to do that in your healthcare classes. And honestly, they give you stuff that you have to do. If you're in the nursing program, when you get to clinicals, you're going to have like 8 to 10 hours of work the day before you do your clinical just to prepare for your clinical sometimes. It's crazy. The other fun thing to tell you is this. Everybody that I know that's out there that gets through the program, whether it's nursing, rad tech, or whatever, when they look back on A&P, they're like, I didn't know how easy it was. It's not easy, but once you get all of those classes, boom, 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 in a big 2-year program, the way that we do A&P is not so bad. Now, LVN's different. Those of you that are already LVNs and are out there practicing and did that program, it's a little different because it was more clinical and a lot of stuff. So I'm not comparing it, okay? But I mean, those 2-year programs, people look back on that and say, oh, A&P's not that bad now. If I could go back and take it now, it's not that bad. Because you develop a different skill set as you move on. And we're early on, and that's just normal. So then after this, Module 1, then we're going to move into Module 2. What's going on here? Oh, yeah. So then we do 1, 2, 3 labs. Notice 2 of them are about the heart. 1 of them's about blood vessels. And then it's time to open up the test. Okay? So we have our first round of tests on the second weekend. We have our next round of tests on weekend 4. When do you think our next round of tests are? 2, 4, 6. Which is what weekend? Welcome to healthcare. You don't get holidays. Do you know how many of y'all already work in healthcare or have family members that work in healthcare? How many holidays you get off? Anybody get all of them? What do you do? Your mom does. She made it up here, huh? Yeah, exactly. Dental assistant. Yeah, you get the holidays off. Not emergency oral surgeon though, right? Yeah, exactly. So think about those things. Dental hygiene. Ooh, 3-day weekends. Most clinics work 4 days a week now, right? Anyway. Nursing, hospital. Oh, be prepared for 12-hour shifts. Ooh, buddy. Like my Tuesday and Thursday at OC. All right. So the idea is you're going to have work to do over the Thanksgiving holiday. Here, you can travel because it's online. You can go be with family. I got to tell you, when A&P went online for years and years and years, I go on vacation, we do stuff during the day, and at night I stay up and work while everybody sleeps. I mean, there's just choices to make, right? So that's one of the choices. By having our resources online, it gives you flexibility. It lets you work on stuff 24/7 if you want, whenever it fits your schedule, not my schedule. And here's the other really important thing. You're only with me Tuesday night and Thursday night. 6 o'clock Tuesday to 9 o'clock Thursday. That's 2 days. That's a 2-day window plus 3 hours. So it's 51 hours of a week. Then you leave. You got Friday to Saturday to Sunday to Monday to the next Tuesday. Do you see that? How many days a week are you away from me? 5. You're with me 2 and you're away? 5. When do you think you're going to do most of your learning? It's not in the 2. It's in the 5. It really is. So we're going to come to class and I'm going to get you familiar with it, and I'm going to shoot things out there and ask a lot of questions, and you're going to work with the content. But you really lock it in on those alternate days when you're studying. Not just those 5 days. Honestly, the next day whenever you can study, and the next day, and it perpetuates like that. Okay? And why am I telling you all these things? Because I've done this a long time and I know what works. And yes, we all do things differently, but most of us don't have photographic memory, see it once and know it forever. Okay? Some do, and that's okay. But there's also a difference between memorizing and knowing it like that versus understanding it. There's a difference. There's definitely a difference. Here's where it gets real fun. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, test. But remember, I've spaced it out in such a way, and I've done the content. I didn't tell you this, but Module 1, only 2 chapters. Module 2, here's the good news. It's 2 chapters, but it's 4 chapters, but it's only 2 topics, immune system and cardiovascular. It's just that they separate them out into heart and blood vessels and lymphatic and immunity. Lymphatic's one of the shortest chapters in the book when we had a technical book, okay? And blood vessels, 2/3 of that chapter is just pictures of blood vessels. So it's, even though it's 4 chapters, it's not really 4 pure chapters of material. Like, it's not endocrine 4 times, okay? But the good news is, then we've pushed you at the beginning, and you've done 4, you just had 4 chapters in 1 module. The last 2 modules are 3 chapters. And both of those last 2 modules have 1 chapter that has no lab, which is a little short chapter. Okay? So at the end, and this is one of the better things about AMP2 than AMP1, it is geared, like I said earlier, so you don't get jammed up. Even with the content that they give us, it gets, after we get halfway, it certainly doesn't get harder. Okay? I know sometimes in AMP1, nervous system can be a bear. Some of that stuff can be, our harder stuff is in the first 4 weeks. Okay? All right. And then, oh, look, we have that cool final exam sitting out there that we can take on Thursday of final exam week. We'll see what this year they shocked us. I haven't checked yet. On Wednesday afternoon, after I already told my students they could test on Friday, I got an email that said grades are due Friday. Yeah, I know you did, because all of us teachers went, you know what we said. What? What? I just told people they could take their final on Friday. And now I have to have grades turned in on Friday. So I had to send that message out there. Hey, yo, sorry. So plan to take it Thursday. That's what I'm letting you guys, and think, plan to take it on the scheduled day. I'm not going to make that mistake again and set you up for failure that way. Okay? Freak you out, and now all of a sudden you have to test early. All right, that's our schedule. I think it makes sense. I think that's enough orientation. We did 1 hour. Let's take a 10-minute break.